SRX 900 series and the VTX series of speakers. But I thought it was going to be more than a sales pitch and playback demo, but that's all it was a sales talk and playback.
Well, that's that's definitely unfortunate. I was hoping you would get more for your money than that, but then again, you didn't pay anything.
I got free stuff. I got free stuff. They gave me stuff. They gave me stuff.
Swag?
But
you got
I
swag.
did. I got another black shirt. Imagine that.
Oh,
Yeah, well, that's the one thing we can never have enough of.
And gloves also. They gave out gloves, like work gloves. That's pretty cool.
Really, I guess they're trying to tell you something, eh?
Right.
Is that their audio road show?
Exactly, the audio road show. That's it.
Yeah, because it was here in Vegas on the 30th.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's introduce everybody.
It was at ABBEY Vegas on Arville on the west side.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Anyway, let's introduce the show at least, okay? Our current event show, number 176. Unbelievable, as I may say. Unbelievable, 176 in a row. This is an opinion show. We're going to talk about whatever's on our mind, mostly current events. But right now we're talking about the JBL Roadshow, and we've got our panel in the room. You guys want to introduce yourself? Up to you.
Hi, I'm Ken. I'm a sound guy.
Yeah, I'm David. I'm a sound guy.
Hey, I'm Jan Landy, a wannabe sound guy. There you go. Used to be a sound guy. Now I don't know what I am anymore.
You're not so sound anymore. Well, so my takeaway from this, from the JBL Audio Roadshow, two things. I'm not sure what other people got out of it, but for me, it was nice to see. I'm not sure what the price point of their SRX 900 series is, but it's a plastic box that doesn't sound like a plastic box. That's totally a real line array. It's not a VRX. It's not an imitation line array. It's a real full-on line array, self-powered, very high-tech, and I have a feeling very inexpensive package. Hey, there's Kurt. Hi, Kurt. What? You're not working? That's crazy. Anyway.
What does it weigh, Kenny? What does it weigh?
That's a good question. I don't know much of the specs about it. Okay. Anyway, the SRX 900 was nice. It was good to see that there's, the JBL's producing a very low end, but not as low end as the VRX speaker system. And the other thing that was freaking amazing was the SB28 subwoofer. They had a stack of 3 of them. And I mean, this is probably very common, but I've never experienced it like this in person so drastically. They had it in cardioid configuration. 2 on top were facing forward. 1 on the bottom was facing upstage. And they played some very low-endy material through it. And I swear to you, the difference between in front of it and behind it was, to my ears, shocking. So I was very impressed by that. And I asked the guy, I said, is that just, turning the cabinet around and plugging it in, or is there technology? He said, oh, there's a lot of technology going on with that to make that be that good. And he said, there's so much technology that with a stack of 3 speakers like that, if you face them all forward, or if you do the cardioid configuration that we have here, there's only 1 dB of difference in overall level. I said, well, that's pretty impressive. So I was pretty impressed by that. And it's probably because I'm new to subwoofer, to cardioid subwoofer arrays, but it's probably pretty common amongst subwoofer. Please do.
So yeah, we do that all the time. If you're doing it with two boxes and you flip the top one around, you'll steer down, and if you flip the bottom one around, you'll steer up. If you do it with, like you said, 2 facing forward and the bottom one, they're steering up slightly, which would work great like in a theater with a slope or something. If you turn the center one around to face upstage and the bottom and top are facing forward, you're going to get a straight coverage pattern that's not going to tip up or down. And what they're doing is they're inverting the electrical polarity of the center, whichever box is backwards, it's polarity inverted. And then there's a delay time that's calculated to match the amount of time it takes for the wave to get from the front of the forward firing speaker to the front of the baffle of the rear firing speaker. And so it's a time offset, and you end up with a wave that's essentially 180 degrees out of polarity when it meets the back one. And it sums moving forward and cancels moving rearward. We get about 10 to 12 dB of rear rejection commonplace, and usually maybe 2 dB of summing up front that wouldn't be there otherwise. And I don't know if you walked around them, but if you notice when you got to 45 degrees is when it almost completely disappears. So the target is to place the subs in a position where the apex of that cancellation will be like where the drum riser is. And if you do this right, you get to that certain spot and the drummer can't even tell there's a PA.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking if they could do that with their top boxes also, that would be spectacular.
Well,
but the subs, I was very impressed. He claimed it was 20 dB of rejection or whatever you call it, lower 20 dB lower level off the back. I swear it sounded like more. It sounded like more to me because there was so much deep low end, so much 40, 50, 60 hertz in front of it.
What kind of room were you in?
Nothing. The JBL demo room. It's kind of a 100 by 100 kind of room, with a 30-foot ceiling. Anyway, it was very impressive.
Now, let me ask you something for somebody who doesn't know anything about anything here. Why would you want the subwoofer to come out in the rear? And that's question A. And number two, isn't it true that subwoofers are omnidirectional? They're not directional in general?
Go for it, Kurt. Kurt's got a better answer to this.
This is a way of making them directional. You want to get rid of rumble, or like in my case down in Bend, it's a huge deal to not be hitting backwards with low frequency to the homes. So yes, if you don't do anything about it, low frequencies are omnidirectional, mostly. The higher they go, the less that's the case. But by introducing the destructive interference behind it, you're canceling waveforms. So you turn the speaker around so that its positive is in the opposite direction as the positive of the forward-facing one. But then you flip them in delay. You flip the polarity and delay time in order to realign it one wavelength behind.
Anyway, and Jan, the desired end result is to have the subwoofer energy only go to the audience, not go to the stage at all. Behind the speakers. So maybe I explained
that's exactly
it backwards.
correct. So that's why it didn't make any sense to me why you would want it to come out in the rear, because then it would just be hitting the stage.
But the one that's going backwards is purposely going that direction in order to introduce the destructive cancellations that get rid of the ambient low frequency noise.
And so this is a universal known, because if you're using it with JBL, and I know that Kurt uses Meyer, so that means that's a universal fact now.
Yeah,
everybody does it.
The methodology is, but the numbers are going to change a little bit as far as delay times and stuff like that. Because
and there's different approaches to it, aren't there? Like end fire and blah blah.
Yeah, there are different ways you can do it, and you can hang them end fire, which is an array behind an array, and possibly a third one, and you can slope them down. Meyer does that in Europe a lot at some of those big festivals, and that's another way of aiming the low frequency lobe, steering it down into the people, so it's hitting the audience rather than traveling 1.5 miles down the road. That, however,
anyway, my takeaway was it was very impressive the way JBL implemented it. Though.
Yes, it's a game changer for live audio. It makes the monitor mixes, it makes the performance area much better. It makes all the backstage area, like where the production people are and the ticket people and all that stuff, they don't have to get pummeled all day long. It's much less fatiguing for everyone on site if you do it that way. The whole thing with end fire and all of these really long, there's nobody ever has that kind of time or that kind of space. If you got a week to set up and it's a huge outdoor festival, sure. But if you're rolling in with a truck and you're trying to do a gig and be up and running in 3 hours, there's no time and there's never space to do all of that end fire stuff. And a lot of it tends to push the barricade 20 feet off the stage, and nobody's going to go for that. So what Ken's describing is kind of like 99% of what people end up doing to achieve cardio.
So why would somebody not, like some sound system, not have that? Like, for example, I did a festival, my first festival last week, and they had subs everywhere, and they were scattered about the front of the stage. It was a DMB system, and I thought, they're not in cardioid mode at all. They're just stacks of two, or stacks of three or something scattered about the front of the stage. I thought, why don't they do cardioid?
You can introduce time time values between different cabinets that will steer the array. So you can do things when you have them all in a line like that. If they're individually addressed and have different processing times, you can make an arc. The reason you want to do something where, like, ideally for me, I would love to do a cardioid center cluster, because then I get a nice even bubble that goes out into the audience. As soon as you do left and right, then you start getting power alleys. You get a null and a hot shot and a null. And unfortunately, that's just the reality of the space we're given at shows. Like, you can't really put it in the center most of the time. And then as a byproduct of that too, if you try to put it in the center and do cardioid, that would be ideal. But the problem is most of the time, the stage itself is going to interfere with it. If it's a hollow stage, it's going to either resonate or the wave is going to go underneath the deck and get trapped and altered in a way that it no longer is canceling correctly. And if you have a concrete stage, you've got to be at least 6 feet off of any rigid surface. So the back of your rear firing sub would have to be 6 feet off the stage, which puts the front of the whole array about 10 feet out. So now
totally impractical or impossible.
With security demanding to have lateral access, they're going to want another fire code 3 feet. So now you're 13, 14 feet off the downstage edge with a barricade, and no one will go for that. So it's very difficult to do cardioid center cluster and have it actually work. I see people try it all the time and they think it's working, but it's not, because they're just blasting right into the concrete, and it's the destructive wave. The waves
is not sort of as effective as it should be.
Yeah, because the concrete itself messes up the rear firing wave, and it doesn't really work in a broadband way that it should.
You're making it sound like JBL was way ahead of their time when they what was that box they have that didn't have a back on it? What was it?
HLA. Yeah, that's stupid. Yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah,
system.
that has nothing to do with this. That was not it.
but Kurt, you're reminding me of when
the HLA system. That's what it was.
Yeah.
The HLA
when I was using EAW 850s, when would that have been, Jan? When I was using 850s on Manilow, and we did a gig in Massachusetts. Is that where EAW was at that time?
Would have been early 90s.
Yeah. So anyway,
the early 90s.
We went to EAW and we got the tour of the place, and we said, so, one thing you can help us with, getting the low end more uniform throughout the room, right? And they said, put the subwoofers in the middle. I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. But that was their answer. If you put the subwoofers in the middle instead of left and right, your low end will be much more uniform throughout the room. So you're reminding me of that.
Yeah, the monoblock in the center is great, because you don't get the hot and cold, hot, cold, hot and cold. I could pull up a screen share and show you, but you already know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and besides, most of the audience is asleep by now, so we don't want to.
But JBL was at this session that I went to today, Kurt. JBL was saying that if you get 5 subwoofers spaced evenly across the front, and you get the measurements between them, enter those measurements into the blah blah program that they use, and it will even they can even out the coverage significantly by having those 5 separate clusters.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about they have to be independently addressed. Like with Meyer, it's easy because they're self-powered, so all you do is send the signal that's processed. With JBL or anybody else with amplifiers, you've got to be much more specific about which amplifier is getting a certain input and which.
Well, that's the thing. These subwoofers that they were showing us are self-powered.
Oh, okay. Well, then same kind of deal. But yes, that's what I was talking about evenly spaced across. You have to figure out what that distance is and model that and how it's going to create or not create the nodes. And then you can also use delay time, even though none of them are backwards, to help steer.
Right. Oh, no kidding. To steer it forward? Yeah, really?
Well,
I think we're putting David to sleep. I think
you're right by now. Everybody's asleep. That's about it. I've worked this hard.
He can't bring that kind of stuff.
No, it's okay.
Up
we get the engineering corner. Where I really miss right now is Wayne Sims. Wayne should be in the room now, because this would be like, oh my God, he'd be drooling at this point in time.
So the thing is that was my takeaway though from this demonstration, was that subwoofer difference from front to back was, to my way of thinking, really great. So maybe I've never experienced it before, but that was my takeaway because it was great.
It's a game changer. Was it Raul running the show?
No, he wasn't there.
All right, so I have a question. So you have your cabinets, you have your 3 subs, 1 rear firing underneath the other 2. Do the parameters change with it gig to gig, or can you just set them up and let them go?
No, they are independent of the room. I mean, the room will impact their performance and placement. You got to make sure you're not reflecting into a rigid, hard surface like concrete or something that's going to absorb it or trap it like a hollow stage. So that element can change, but the delay time and the polarity inversion don't change because that stack is the same. It's a stack of 3 is a stack of 3. It doesn't matter where it is.
Right. So
You
they
have to be careful how you deploy it, but you don't change the math.
right. So it can be set and ready to go for every gig. And you
We do
just
it all the time. My big Meyer subs, all my Meyer subs were right around in stacks of 3 with the center one reversed. That's how they travel. And we put them in place and we wire them up, and it's the processor has the delay time and the polarity inversion in the program that we've built, and it just works.
that's great.
Now, do you need more subs to get more SPL if you have one facing rear?
That's what that's what the guy from JBL was telling me, was that they only by doing that, facing the one backwards, he said that is only 1 dB less than if you had all 3 facing forward. And then Kurt had another spec for what you were doing.
Well, we noticed a dB or 2 of addition, but it also depends on you can play around with the delay time. If you increase the delay time, you can potentially have more cancellation, which might be what Ken experienced that results in a dB of loss up front. But you can also set it in a place that'll be maybe a little bit less cancellation, but 0 net loss in front, or even a summation. So it kind of depends on what side of the ideal delay time you are. You can slide the scale around a little bit depending on how much projection you want in the rear.
So back to our original subject, what are they doing with subwoofers, if anything, at the Sphere?
No idea. Scoville will know all about it.
I haven't heard of anything about subwoofers at all in that building. All I have heard about is the hollow plot. And I don't remember reading anything about subwoofers in the hollow plot.
Right. That's the big question. How do they get those subs out of those hollow plots?
Do they, those frequency, how do they get that frequency range of below 80 hertz out of the hollow plot? Is it there, or is it just nice and clear and in your face and there's nothing below 60 hertz or something? You know what I mean?
No way U2 is going to play there and not have anything below 60 hertz. So there's something being done. Modern music is just completely built from 80 down. I mean, yeah, I'm sure money, but
know what you're saying. But did you hear what the rumor that I heard about the money relating to Bono?
No.
About he got 99% of all the money?
Oh yeah, that's a good rumor. I heard 90%. I heard he got 90. I heard it.
You know what else I heard?
Here's what I heard, Kurt. Here's what I heard, Kurt. That he listened to the sound. I'm not sure what the sound was that he was listening to, but he auditioned the sound in there and said it's bad in some way, like awful, worst sound I ever heard. Some very strong adjective about the sound being bad. And they said, okay, listen, we'll give you 90% of the door. And then he went, okay, whatever. We'll work it out. Because I'm reading between the lines. I'm guessing he said, oh, we have to bring in a conventional sound system. This just isn't going to work because of whatever.
There are no fly points. I know this for sure now. I've got this confirmation on really good sources. There are no sound flying points in that room.
I heard
there is no way to fly a sound system.
I heard it's possible to pop the tiles and get some access to the infrastructure of the building.
I have heard that that is not designed to fly sound. It's only designed to fly lighting.
Okay, so it's a weight thing, you mean?
Yeah.
In other words, they can fly something, but it's got to be relatively lightweight. It can't
with
be
that
thousands
structure,
of pounds.
with the dome structure like that, and all of the video wall stuff and everything it's got to support. There's no way it can't support a PA. There's no way that it isn't rated for that. They might actively discourage it because they want you to use their system because it's the whole shtick is that, and the video is immersive. So they're not going to voluntarily make it possible, but I'll guarantee you the structure is capable of it.
I think I heard that it's that there are tiles that will pop and there's ways to fly things in there, but I'm not sure. We're going to find out from Scoville.
Well, they didn't fly any lights for U2. It was just those 4 trees in the back and
there's some front lights on the front of the seating area, right?
Well, there's in the balcony, you can have a ton of front lights.
That's what I mean. Yeah, those lights. I'm not sure there's a ton, but there's some.
Yeah.
Well, it has
Not
to
to
be,
mention, not to mention, it's well lit by the floor of the stage, and the background of them is so bright. It's like, yeah. Do they even
well,
need to be
it's
lit
not
up
just
anymore?
the background, it's the side ground, it's the foreground.
That's
it's
what I
all
mean.
around
It's
them,
everywhere. It's
the
everywhere.
roof system. So they've got
Is it
enough
seated only
power for
venue?
lighting.
Is it fixed seating or is it
seating.
reconfigurable?
It's 6 seating except for the general area in the front. That's standing.
General area in the front, which is about the size of a normal arena floor, okay, or bigger, probably bigger.
Right.
Large area in the front. That's what you would call general admission. No seats, right? And then there's tons of fixed seats, 1, 2, and 3 level. Is that right?
The pictures I saw, it didn't look like there was standing room. It looked like there was
There is
seats.
absolutely. There's no question that you look at the seating chart when you go to buy tickets. It's called general admission. Yeah.
Well, watch the video I sent you guys of you two. You just watch the video. They're all standing around in the
Yeah,
front.
they took
Well,
out.
they have it.
They have floor seating, but they took out the 4 seats and made it general admission for this concert.
Oh, no
Yeah, that
kidding.
makes
I didn't
sense.
realize
Yes.
there was any seating
With the
available. I thought it
seats,
was all
they-
flat.
They could address the low frequency thing with aura shakers or something along that nature, butt kickers, whatever, in the seats. I mean, that's done in Vegas sometimes. But
Well, they do have
don't
that
have them, you
built into
can't
the
do it.
seats, and they have haptic built into the seats as well, so they could vibrate the seats. They could also add wind and moisture and smell. I mean, it's really immersive, all completely immersive.
A
on what it is.
multi-sensory experience.
oh, so they can make it smell like the
Multi-sensory,
nightclubs used to when you were allowed to smoke still?
Exactly. Yep, they can do that.
Probably
Yeah.
so. Probably so.
Wouldn't that be great?
You know, it can smell like you're in the restroom, and or you're at a festival and you're out by the porta potties.
Perfect.
Yeah, it makes me feel at home. That's what I could say. But all kidding aside, about this Bono thing about taking 90% of the room, I find
That's
it
totally
really
a
hard
rumor.
to
That's
believe.
totally a rumor. That's totally a rumor. Ken knows, though. Hi, Ken.
I think
How
it's
are
a
you, Ken?
complete rumor. I mean, the rumor I heard is that 90% wasn't enough. So they had professional pickpockets going through the audience. And so they were taking everything that they could. That's what I heard. But what do I know? Hey, Ken Porter is in the room, ladies and gentlemen.
I see Kurt Hare's in the room too. So I'm going to
Yep.
do my best Kurt Hare imitation. I'm going to make dinner while we talk.
Oh,
we
there
go.
you go. Very, very good. Well, anyway, I spent hours and hours on a program for this show. And of course, it's right now out the window. I don't even know how to transition to any of the stories I wanted to talk about.
Just find the link between what you were going to talk about and subwoofers.
Yeah, well, okay. Let's see if there's one that I could. Yeah, all right. I got it. Loneliness kills. Because basically most of our audience already have left. And so it's just us chickens in the room, and loneliness. They found that loneliness is as deadly as smoking 15 cigarettes a day and more lethal than consuming 6 alcoholic drinks a day. And that's according to the Surgeon General of the United States. So basically, and the loneliness factor, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced it. David probably hasn't, because he's been in an amazing relationship for the last, as long as, since the the 80s? 79, and I was there that time. And then so it seems like everybody in this room, but loneliness is, and so what right now there is this new thing. I don't know if you saw the logo, but I am not making this up. So there's a big problem right now with our society, a huge problem with the younger males. And because they're lonely, they're going out onto the internet and TikTok and YouTube and everything else like that. But now there is something even more destructive and probably could be a game changer for our society. And it's called Cupid AI. I don't know if you've seen this, but basically they're AI girlfriends, and they are really now, they're amazing looking women. And you can just basically go up to this site, cupid.ai, and you pick the woman that you want, and you could it's like like in real life. You could talk to them for free, but if you want anything from them, you gotta pay, you know? And so they'll say, hey, we'll send you a picture, but you gotta pay. And if you haven't been up there, it's frightening. It's absolutely frighteningly real. And I am really worried about what's going to happen to the people, you know, these young guys who are going to have these virtual girlfriends that real women just won't be able to compete with.
And so these are not women, you're saying. They're just fake. They're just, what, animated? Or what?
They're artificial
like?
Intelligence. They're artificial. Well, Google Cupid.ai.
I'm not gonna have that in my Google search history.
There is no. Well, I'll tell you what, just look at the show logo on Tina's, from Tina's logo. I don't know if you could see it, but basically, yeah, these women are, they're just, they're very picturesque.
And do they talk? Do they talk or do they just
talk?
Text?
They smile, they react to what you're saying. You know, they'll laugh at your jokes, but if you want anything more, you have to pay. You have to buy a membership, you know? And
how
it's
interesting.
Frightening.
Wow. And this is
there's a link we have from CNN. That's where I heard about this. I didn't know about it until CNN. And basically they're really afraid that this is going to ruin a complete generation of the up and coming guys, because this is not real. It's utopia of do you guys remember that movie with called Her with Scarlett Johansson and Joaquin? What's Joaquin's last name?
Phoenix.
Yes, Joaquin Phoenix, where he fell in love with this computer voice. Well, this takes it to the next level. This takes it up to the level of frighteningness, because, you know, as AI develops, it's really hard to tell what's real and what's artificially intelligized. And so that's something that, you know, so I guess that goes just right along the lines with subwoofers. You just can't tell anymore.
Oh, stretch.
I'm speaking of subwoofers, I'm kind of curious to hear what the deal is at the Sphere about, you know, below 80 hertz energy. Is the holoplot so capable of below 80 hertz because it has 1 million, 4-inch drivers, literally 1 million 4-inch drivers, that it's not necessary to have subwoofers, or what?
Well, by the way, Lucas Grubia is getting, what do you call it? He's learning it. They're teaching him about it. So, yeah, he's on their list where they bring him to the demos and they give him.
Who's they? MSG or Holoplot?
Oh no, Holo Point.
Holoplot. And you know what I heard? I heard that Madison Square Garden bought Holoplot for this. And here's a tip that I heard, that PowerSoft is powering that whole building.
I thought you just said QSC.
No, did I say QSC? I meant PowerSoft.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. That I believe.
But remember,
you
it's an opinion.
QSC
it could be QSC. No, it's PowerSoft.
That's why I said Pat Quilter is no longer involved in the day-to-day of QSC. That's funny.
That's because he went to PowerSoft so he could get involved in this, probably,
Maybe. Yeah, but that makes sense because PowerSoft is the go-to amplifier.
By the way,
didn't MSG put a holoplot system in the Beacon?
Exactly. That's right. Probably why Lucas is involved too. He's in New York, I'm
told that they're going to put one in Madison Square Garden eventually.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, they're in the Chinese food, so they're everywhere. MSG. You have to be very careful. Well, you can run into them everywhere. They're not at Kurt Hare's house, so I can guarantee it. There's no MSG at his house. I can tell you that right now.
Oh,
you should know MSG there. None of that stuff.
No MSG. That's the point of cooking at home, is you know what's in it.
Yeah.
Yes, that is the point of cooking at home, when you know what's in it, because when you go to a restaurant, you have no idea what they're putting in the food. Absolutely none, because you can't see it.
Tastes great. Yeah, right, because it has MSG or it has cocaine or whatever it has in it.
Well, I don't think they're cooking with cocaine, but some of the better restaurants they're probably using cocaine.
Had an engineer had an engineer that ended up in the hospital this weekend because he has an allergy, and he ended up accidentally eating the vegan entree in catering, and it had cashew cheese, and he's highly allergic to tree nuts. So he ended up in the hospital.
Oh man. Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, one of the worst allergies you could have is allergies to peanuts.
Pretty common, I've heard. Pretty common.
They don't allow them in schools. You can't send your kid a peanut butter sandwich to a public school now.
I just don't understand how somebody who walked into a room that had peanuts in it can then walk into somebody else's room and kill them because they have this allergy to peanuts. What is it about the body that is so reactive to just a couple of molecules of this stuff? I don't get it.
What are you saying? Wait, what are you saying? Did something happen like that?
No, well, yeah, sure. I mean, in general, it happens. You know, somebody gets on an airplane and somebody had peanuts in the back row, and the next thing you know, the guy's in an anaphylactic shock. What is it about the body that's so reactive that it's only a few molecules in the air can kill a guy? What else?
I'm glad you asked, David. I have the answer. I've gone to school for many years. I've studied the human physiology, and I can answer that question. And here's the answer: nobody knows. That's it. You know, so just if you're allergic to peanuts, just stay at home. That's it, and eat your own cooking.
It's unbelievable how a body can react like that to almost nothing, and we can sit there and all sorts of other things don't do anything to us.
I have a daughter that is allergic to red dye #2 in yellow 40. And we've been in the emergency room several times with her with highs, whatever, trying to get her settled down from that.
Well, those allergies can change and evolve too. My ex-wife ate shellfish, and crab, and everything for 20-something years. And then all of a sudden, one night, boom. Didn't even eat. It was just in the sauce, and it just got her. Couldn't breathe. I had to call the aid unit and all this other stuff.
Now that happens. Like remember we were all doing Viome, and that's why they want you to test every 6 months, because your body does change.
You still doing it?
I'm looking at it from 2 years ago. In other words, I've limited all the foods that they told me not to eat, and I basically have maintained my weight, and I've been pretty healthy. The other thing I try to do is stay away from inversed subwoofers. If I'm going to be in a room, I want them all facing at me. That's about it.
So are you going to retest? I bought the retest kit, and I'm thinking I should probably do it since it's been a couple of years.
By the way, one other thing about subwoofers, and speaking of diet, it's a great way to stay regular. I mean, if you're constipated, these
hertz.
Subwoofers, that's it. It'll bring out the best in you. That's all I can say.
Not where Ken and I were hanging out. In front, you'll do that.
Yeah.
I always thought it was to keep you regular, you had to eat sauerkraut or kimchi.
There you go. Well, I'm trying to keep it, trying to keep these subwoofers in the conversation.
On track, on track. You got to keep the conversation on track here. Can I just steer you right off track? I saw this movie that was really cute, and I just want to share with you that I loved it. It was a movie called, what the hell is it called now? Hello, God. It's Me, Margaret. Is that what it's called? David, have you seen the movie?
Hello, God?
Hello, something about God. It's Me, Margaret.
Okay, so let's just say it was called Me, Margaret. Hello, God. What's it about?
You didn't see it? You didn't see it, David?
No, but I know the title now. Hello, God, it's Me, Margaret. Right.
It's about a 10-year-old girl whose parents, the father is Jewish and the mother is Christian, and so the father's mother is very involved in the little girl's life, but the girl's grandparents on the mother's side are totally not in her life. Anyway, it's a very cute story about the girl and her coming of age and stuff like that. It's very nice.
Okay.
Well, that's interesting. That's it. Let's subwoof right back into, let's transition right back into subwoofers. I didn't mean to subwoof right into it. But
how was the LF content in that movie, Ken?
I think if I had the JBL subwoofers, it would have been way better. Hello, God, it's me, Margaret. No, are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. That's it. Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. That's what it's called. And the subwoofers, they had their moment to shine. Every once in a while, boom, you felt the bus drive by, or you felt some things. It was really good.
And now, did she have a cell phone in that movie?
No way. It was based in 1970.
See, now, if had she been alive today, she wouldn't have had to ask that question, because she would have had a smartphone, and the smartphone would have given her all those answers. And by the way, did you know that the average teenager gets 237 texts a day, whether it be IMs from Instagram, Facebook, texting, what have you, TikTok, 237 a day. Isn't that not amazing?
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. How can you even keep up with that?
You can't, but again, that's another story CNN reported.
I wonder if there'll be a service where you can, instead of the AI girlfriend, you can have your own AI deity. You can custom AI your own god to worship.
I already have that. And it comes in, well, I'm not going to say it comes in a subwoofer, but you could have it in a subwoofer if you like, any kind of container you want. But basically, speaking of God, Brooks Robinson, he is now with God, the Baseball Hall of Famer and the Baltimore Orioles. He died he was 86 years old. Do you guys ever remember watching him play? He was like the best third baseman ever.
Wrong team for me.
Yeah, well, we were New York Yankees fans until the Mets came along,
No, I stayed a Yankees fan, but then I moved to LA.
And then you became a Dodger fan, the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Wrong hobby for me.
You can do both. It's not a problem. You can be American League, National League, have your teams, and if they meet, then you have to deal with it.
Yeah, those were the days. Me, Margaret, Hello, Me, Margaret. That was the days when you could get that kind of movie on Netflix. They would send you a red envelope. You remember that? Those days are gone now.
With Netflix, the DVD, they just ended that, but Blockbuster
after 25 years.
Blockbuster in Bend continues to have DVDs for rent.
Yep.
I heard that they went out of business.
No,
Blockbuster in Bend is still in business. Yep.
And you can rent it out.
They went out of business.
There's one, and it's in Bend. I just drove by it a month ago, and you can rent it out and stay the night and watch movies in the Blockbuster.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. So if we got nothing better to do, you know what to do, right?
Yeah. And all of these modern sports arenas, Ken, they all have cardioid subwoofers flown in their arrays.
Yeah. Okay. So question for you. Speaking of cardioid, what's the difference between cardioid and unidirectional?
Cardioid has a pattern like a cardioid microphone would have, where it's kind of heart-shaped with a little blurb on the top, like you'd expect from a cardioid or hypercardioid. And unidirectional is going to just radiate like a sphere.
Or
that sounds like omnidirectional.
Yeah, another. Yeah.
Right. Unidirectional would be. I don't think you can achieve that with this cardioids about it.
So I guess I'm asking in relation to microphones. When you look on a microphone spec sheet and it says unidirectional, or if it says cardioid, what's the difference? That's my question.
Well, I know the difference. The difference is the cardioid knows where it's going, but unidirectional, you have to keep asking, do you know which way? And that's why it's like that. That's no.
Brilliant.
No. Brilliant. Right, we're trying here. It's supposed to be a comedy show.
Because to my way of thinking, unidirectional and cardioid are, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say they're the same thing, but I'm probably wrong.
Isn't it more like all dimes are coins, but not all coins are dimes? Unidirectional is cardioid, hypercardioid, whatever, but it's still unidirectional.
Gotcha. Okay. That could be one explanation for the use of the word unidirectional, that it might be hypercardioid.
Yeah, or figure eight.
The same thing. I just looked it up. It's the same thing. It's two names for the same thing.
So then check it out. There it is. There's Blockbuster Ben's, Instagram post. Of course, it's not in focus, but anyway, it's Instagram, Blockbuster Ben. They still have DVDs, it says.
Well, there you have it.
So coming
Pretty
back
amazing.
to subwoofers, does everybody remember when they did the movie Earthquake released and you had the subwoofers, the earthquake? Does anybody remember what the brand of those, the name of those were?
Weren't they Spire 650s?
No, they were Sherwin Vegas.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The Meyer thing was Apocalypse Now. When you got your film from the distributor, you had to have Crest amps and Meyer 650Ps.
Oh, interesting.
650 R2s. And actually, the very first one only had a single 18, but and it was never thought of going to be a PA box. It was built specifically for that. And then when they got the back, they liked the results, but they wanted more power handling. So they took the same cabinet, changed the port, and put the second 18 in. The original one that went out was a single 18 in the same size box.
And this has been another episode of Meyer History with Kurt.
Well, let me give you a little bit of history. Scene was talking about space and subwoofers. That originally Bobby Goldstein from Maryland Sound, he was hired by NASA to create the rumbling sound that these spaceships would go through when they were coming back into Earth. And they used the KF-850 subwoofers to bombard the spaceship with subwoof sound, with low frequency sound, to see whether or not the coding of the spaceship would handle the reentry into Earth.
They still do that. It's not those boxes anymore, but I don't know what they're using, but that's still a test that they still perform to this day.
And not only does Bob Goldstein does it, but Eric, what's Eric's last name? Who used to work for Bob Goldstein?
Eric Clapton.
No, he's a sound guy. Eric, I forget. Oh, Eric. Anyway, Eric does it now. Also, he has a company that does just that, testing for the government. It's a big business.
Eric the half a bee. Eric the half a bee from Monty Python. Those guys. No,
I don't remember Eric's last name. Sorry, Eric.
Greg is missing his big chance to chime in here.
Yeah.
Wait, my clock is running down. I'm gonna have to go soon.
Oh, you lucky dog, you lucky dog. That's it. Just remember, that's an opinion. Everything you hear today. Hey, before you do, did you buy a mattress from Costco? Did I hear that you bought a mattress from Costco?
Bedbugs?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, because I heard somebody bought it. 50,000 people bought a mattress at Costco, and evidently they got wet before they sold them, and so they're recalling them all 50,000 mattresses, because there's a possibility that mold grew inside them.
That's a big mistake.
What,
yeah, if you're interested,
buying a mattress from Costco or getting them wet?
Getting them wet, yeah. Basically, they've been recalled due to the risk of mold exposure. It seems that they got wet during manufacturing, and then they just released them and produced them, and then people started getting mold in their bed.
That's why we always take the protective covers off the subwoofers after they've been in the rain, because we don't want moldy subwoofers.
Absolutely. Good. And speaking of moldy and subwoofers, did you know that Jimmy Carter just celebrated his 99th birthday? That's amazing. That guy's going to live forever.
Well, he's in hospice, is what I heard. Is that true, or am I hearing that?
He's in hospice, but he's running around like crazy now. He was just outside at some sort of parade or something.
So he could go at any time, but he's just.
We all could go at any time. That's but he's closer to, I heard, I was reading an article that he's so close to death that he will not buy green bananas.
Okay. Put up on.
The moral words of Monty Python, not quite dead yet.
But he was coughing up blood late last night. I guess that's it,
It's probably finally meet Keith Richards.
By the way, speaking of alien life, I don't know where that came from.
Good segue.
I'm trying my best.
What about Trevor Noah? Don't you have a Trevor Noah story?
Well, yeah, the headline tonight, are you visibly angry or are you lonesome tonight? So talk about Trevor Noah, what happened with the sound system for a comedian, Did
you hear about that, Kurt?
What happened? I didn't hear anything.
What happened?
He's on a world tour, and he was in India, and he started doing his show, and the people couldn't understand what he was saying. not because of a language barrier, because the sound system was so inadequate that there was more reflected sound than there was direct sound. So he said, okay, I forget it. I'm not going to try to, fix this. This sound people have told me it's as good as it's going to get. And so I'm just going to refund all your money. And so he had to do that, I think, in 2 cities in India.
Where was the Meyer system when it was needed?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's it. It's even though it's a pretty much self-contained system, you still need an engineer that knows what they're doing to get the maximum amount of benefit out of the system. And that's why Kurt Hare.
That's true these days.
It might not be the proper scale. It might not have been a big enough PA for the space.
That's what I gather based on the video that I saw. There was a lot of rumbling of his voice around the room based on the little YouTube video that I saw, and I gather that they just didn't have enough PA to get direct sound to all the seats.
You know what fixes rumbling around the room, though?
What's that?
You know what fixes rumbling around the room?
Well, hard to say. It might have just been a question of they didn't have the high pass filter engaged,
That's true.
Hey, by the way, nobody in this room won that $1 billion lottery, right? 1.6.
Tonight. It's tonight.
I got a question for you, Jan. If we won that lottery, would we be here?
You would probably be just hiding out, trying to make believe that things are like normal. That's what it would be. So if your friends wouldn't be hitting you up for money.
You're a funny guy. You're a funny guy, Jan.
You'd be as popular as Taylor Swift at you'll be as popular as Taylor Swift at like a Kansas City Chief game. That's it. What could I tell you? If you won that.
All right. Well, on that note, it's time to go. I got dinner to make and stuff like that. But it's great seeing you, and I look forward to seeing you the next time. And have a good one.
All right, I'm going to hold all the rest of the stories. Let me see if there's any story that I want to talk about that's really timely. That if we didn't talk about it, that things would be different. Nah, we can just talk about whatever we want. So, Ken, what are you making for dinner?
What I call pasta stir fry. Got noodles, got a little bit of steak, and I got red pepper, broccoli, red onion, peas, and a pesto sauce.
There is a app. I believe there's an app that you could punch in all the ingredients that you have in your refrigerator, and it automatically lets you know a recipe that would work with all the ingredients. Did you know about that?
About it, I haven't used it.
There you go. I don't know what it's called.
On my Samsung fridge.
Yeah. Oh, they have it on a refrigerator? Well,
yes,
you could actually, that's a smart idea.
Like you could turn on the camera, the camera sees what you have in your fridge, and then it just tells you what you can make with it.
That's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, all right. Who wants to say something? Because I'm going to hold the rest of the stories till next week. There's nothing that I have in the stories that can't wait till next week. Everything could wait. Everything could wait.
So I got something interesting. An article I found in Twice, which is This Week in Consumer Electronics. I get that magazine. And I'm copying it now to put it into the chat. But it says, forget what you know about coil and magnet speakers. New solid state devices deliver better, clearer listening experiences. And you print it like you print an IC as opposed to a moving coil. And it's a really interesting article that I'm about to post for everybody.
I read that article a couple of weeks ago, and in my understanding, it's only for earphones right now. They haven't built it yet they haven't developed it yet for bigger speakers. Basically, they're using that now for headphone technology.
Right, that's true.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, yep, absolutely.
But it starts small and then gets big.
If it's an armature device and it's already in use in a lot of in-ear monitors, Futuresonics does stuff like that too, as opposed to a round, flexible disc.
I mean, piezo's are not moving diaphragms, and It's not like it's never happened before. It's just they're doing it better.
I remember once this guy had something that they developed that you could put it on a glass window and it would turn the window into a speaker.
Yeah, and or your wall. I had that also.
Yeah, but that never got anywhere.
Right.
Somebody had a module, it was like a it was like a 18 inches by 36 inches, and it had just a bunch of holes in it. And on the backside was a sheet that had all the impregnated with the circuitry. And it was all tied together and stuff there, and you put them in modules and arrays. It was like a long throw array thing.
Yeah.
I saw it out in Southern California one time, but that's been probably 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, sometimes good ideas come along but they get bought and they get bought by companies that want to stifle creativity. Like I heard a long time ago that this guy came out with a pill, just like a little tiny capsule pill that you'd put it in water and it would create gasoline in your car, that your car could run on it. And of course, I heard that that one of the major manufacturers of automobiles bought it and destroyed it, so that it would never be seen. You know who's really interesting? Neil deGrasse Tyson. This guy is pretty amazing, an astrophysicist. Have you guys listened to him at all?
Yep.
Sure.
I was listening him to today, and he was talking about car manufacturers and how they came up with the idea of the car, and then they got the government to build the roads for them, because without roads, the cars wouldn't do it. And then Eisenhower bought into it because he saw what they had in Germany with the Autobahn, and that they built the highways are military grade, so that they are basically, they don't go over the mountain, they go through the mountains. And the reason they do that is so tanks can drive on them without destroying the road. And the other thing, that's what he said.
Yeah, the specs for like the height of overpasses and all that, and the width of things, the lane is a tank width, and all the elevations are based around military vehicles clearance. The whole thing was conceived of as a way to move troops and equipment quickly and efficiently around the country.
Well, moving, and they also built it to where certain areas where they could land a C-130 on it, because they developed a C-130 to do short takeoff and landing.
What they said is that
every 12 miles.
1 mile out of 5 has to be flat and have the ability to land a plane. If you don't have a clear mile every 5 miles, you cannot be an interstate. Consequently, the 215 in Vegas, one side is interstate, one side is not. Right? 15 on the west side is a green and white sign, right? Or blue and white.
Right. Well, the 15, well, any three number road is basically a state or a county road, whereas any 2 number road is a federal highway. And here's something interesting, that if you didn't know, that if it is an odd number, if it's like 15, 17, whatever the odd number is, it goes north and south. If it's an even number like 10 or 44, it goes east-west, like Route 66.
And it starts in San Diego. So the lowest westmost is the 5. And the furthest east is the 95. And the furthest south is the 10, and the 90th is up north. But if you have a sub road that's part of the main road, it gets a 3rd digit. So the 105 is part of the 5.
But I hear those are loop roads. Those are loop roads.
Okay,
yeah, but they're still part of the interstate. They still have an interstate designation.
But
it loops the 10 and the 5.
The one that starts, coming in closer to the city, the one that has the lowest number, like 240 or 440 or whatever, 240 is closer to the city. And as you go farther out, it'll be 650, 750, 850. And if it ends a single digit, like 170, does that loop back and does not connect up with the main road again. It only goes out and comes, you got to turn around and come back.
One way, in other words.
Correct. The loop ones, the even numbers at the front loop it to the interstate. So if you're on Interstate 40, 240 is a loop around the city, or 440 is a loop around the city. It connects back up to 40. But if you got on 140, you wouldn't be back at the interstate again.
Well, the 405, splits in Anaheim and joins again north of LA. Joins the 5 again.
So I've got a question for you guys. I got a question for you guys that don't live in LA. Did you guys have the Thomas Brothers Guide? Did they have Thomas Brothers Guide for other cities other than Los Angeles?
Yes.
For maps?
Yep.
They had those map books across the whole US.
Well, now I know for sure, even though it could be an opinion, but they went the way of the dodo bird, evidently, and the buggy whip.
Myrna just bought one. She wanted to keep it in the car in case there was no cell service. So all of a sudden I found the Thomas Guide in my car that's current. It's like, where did that come from? She found it on Amazon, I'm sure, because she doesn't shop in real life. She just orders. So,
by the way, Amazon is having the big sale they're having another Amazon Prime Day, the 10th and the 11th.
Yeah.
It was one of the stories. See, we mentioned Amazon. I think they're being sued. Let me see if I could find the story.
While you're
Amazon
looking, let me
suing.
just say that I posted in the chat the 2 pages from that article about the speakers.
Yeah, I want to talk about this next week. We're going to have to say goodbye because it's 6:05 and we've been on for an hour. But Amazon's being sued by the government in 17 states, basically. But we'll talk about that next week. Let's talk about that next week. It'll still be going strong. There's lots of lawsuits going on in our country. And, it's crazy what's happening in American politics as well with Congress. It's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. And with all that going on, the Senate, the U.S. Senate, just unanimously passed a formal dress code that includes a coat and a tie and slacks for men. And the move was seen as reflective, at least, because of John Fetterman's his wardrobe. So now it's mandatory that everybody wears a suit, a shirt, and a tie. So I just thought I'd share that with you in the Senate. And I wonder when that's going to go into effect. But anyway, with that, anybody else have anything to say real quick? And then we'll come back next week and we'll talk about whatever we want to talk about next week after the Amazon, the Prime days. And we'll all talk about what we bought, Anyway, with that in mind, anybody? Real quick?
No, goodbye.
Well, that's it. Goodbye. Good riddance. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you're still awake now, you're really a masochist, and I love you for it. Just remember, anyone in the show should give us a thumbs up and share this link of the show. Actually, I don't think this week you have to do that. Next week, do that. Next week. Well, last week's show was really funny. By the way, this week I am using some artificial intelligence. So anybody who participated in the show is going to get an artificial intelligence summary of what we talked about today. So I'm wondering how that's a new feature that Zoom just offered. And so I have it running right now in the background, and it's taking up a lot of memory.
Did anybody see the football game Sunday morning where they had the all animated from Andy's room on Toy Story? So all the players were different, basically animation.
Well, we'll talk about that next week as well. I want to follow that league. Anyway.
They started that last year.
Yeah. Just remember, everybody, everything you heard today was an opinion. Do your own research. We've had a lot of fun today. We had some laughs, per usual. Remember to invite your friends. We don't always get technical, but we could. And just remember, you make it happen. So have a great week, and we will see you again next week for our 177th show. That's impossible, but it's true. All right, we'll talk to you again soon. Remember, make it happen. Have a great week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and bye for now. And with that, we are off the air.
Okay.